Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you try, you just don't fit in? As if people are speaking a language you understand, but don't really feel? This sense of displacement is more common than you might think. Many people experience it in silence, unsure if it's a flaw or a sign of something greater. Carl Jung recognized that some individuals see the world differently. They feel everything more intensely, think beyond the obvious, and, because of that, often find themselves isolated, even in a crowd. Society operates within a framework that accommodates the majority, but not everyone is meant to follow that script. Some people question, observe, and notice subtleties that others overlook. When your perspective goes beyond the conventional, it's easy to feel out of place. But is the problem really with you? Or is it that the world sees things in a limited way? If this feeling is familiar to you, it might be because your mind is searching for something deeper. Small talk may seem empty, and silence might feel more comfortable than shallow interactions. You crave meaning. Think about the great thinkers throughout history. Many of them didn't fit in either. But instead of trying to be like everyone else, they used their uniqueness to create something extraordinary. This sense of not belonging could actually be a push toward discovering your true path. Instead of forcing yourself to fit in, perhaps the key is understanding who you really are. But how do you turn this restlessness into something positive? How do you find a greater sense of purpose in it? The answer might lie in solitude. Before you can understand your role in the world, you first need to learn how to be at peace with yourself. This is where solitude becomes an ally in the process of individuation, an essential concept in Jungian psychology. Have you ever noticed how your thoughts become clearer when you're alone? The external noise fades and things start making sense. Jung didn't see solitude as a punishment, but as a crucial stage of growth. He called it individuation, the path to becoming who you truly are without needing to imitate others. But this requires the courage to step away from outside influences and turn inward. Many people associate solitude with abandonment, but being alone doesn't mean being lost. Think of an artist who needs silence to create or a writer who isolates themselves to finish a book. When you spend time with yourself, you have the opportunity to reflect on what you truly enjoy, what makes sense, and what no longer serves you. This time can be a gift, not a burden. What if solitude were a form of training for your mind? When you learn to be comfortable alone, without needing constant distractions, you become stronger. You stop relying on external validation and start trusting your own voice. This time can be used to write about your feelings, reflect on what genuinely makes you happy, or even learn something new. Keeping a journal, for instance, helps you identify patterns in your life and gain a deeper understanding of your choices. The goal isn't to escape solitude, but to use it to your advantage. It can be a necessary pause, a chance to rebuild, rediscover, and strengthen yourself. When the world becomes too noisy, it's in the silence that the answers emerge. But what happens after that silence? Where can it lead you? Often, solitude isn't the end, it's the beginning of something greater. What seems like emptiness might actually be space waiting to be filled with something new. That's where transformation takes place. Have you ever noticed how major life changes often come after periods of silence? When everything around you settles, something within you begins to shift. Jung describes solitude not as a void, but as fertile ground for transformation. Just like a seed needs the darkness of the earth to sprout, you, too, need moments of introspection to grow. Solitude is a space where you refine yourself. When you're alone, you have the chance to understand what truly matters and free yourself from what no longer does. This process can be uncomfortable, but it's in that discomfort that you discover who you really are. Many people try to escape solitude, filling their time with social media, meaningless gatherings, or anything that keeps them occupied. But does that really solve anything? If you never allow yourself a moment of silence, how can you hear your own thoughts? Instead of avoiding those moments, why not use them to reconnect with yourself? Walking without your phone, writing down your emotions, or simply sitting in silence for a few minutes can bring unexpected clarity to your life. When you realize that solitude can be an ally, your fear of it begins to fade. You understand that you don't need to be surrounded by people all the time to feel good. In fact, the more comfortable you become with yourself, the healthier and more authentic your relationships become. But why do some people experience solitude more intensely than others? It might be connected to how they perceive the world. Deeper individuals feel everything more intensely, and that directly impacts their connections. For them, solitude isn't just about a lack of company, it's about feeling like no one truly understands them. Carl Jung observed that people with this depth, who see beyond the surface, often feel out of place. They think more intensely, feel more deeply, and, at times, seem to exist on a different frequency than most. And that can be lonely. While many are content with shallow conversations and momentary distractions, those with a more reflective mind seek something beyond. They long for genuine exchanges, dialogues that stimulate thought, and moments that hold real meaning. The problem is, this kind of connection isn't easy to find. How many times have you tried to share something important, only to feel like the other person didn't truly understand? Or realized that certain topics seem too empty compared to what you really crave? This happens because your way of seeing life is different from most. The greatest risk in this process is forcing yourself to fit in, pretending to care about things that don't move you, engaging in purposeless conversations, or maintaining superficial relationships can make you feel even more alone. It's like dimming your own light just to avoid making others uncomfortable. But is it really worth it? Maybe it's healthier to accept that not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. The key isn't to mold yourself to what already exists, but to find people who share your wavelength. That can take time, but when it happens, the connection is real. And interestingly, these encounters often arise after periods of solitude. But could those moments of withdrawal also be a sign that something greater is about to unfold? Before major transformations, there's usually a period of silence. Understanding this can completely change the way you deal with these moments. Have you ever noticed how, before important changes, there's often a phase of withdrawal? As if the universe is pulling you away from distractions so you can clearly see what's ahead. Jung believed these periods of solitude weren't coincidences but signals that something inside you was preparing to change. If you pay attention, you'll notice this pattern happening more often than you think. Think about the times in your life when significant changes occurred. Maybe it was after a breakup, the loss of a job, or the drifting away of certain people. At first, it might have seemed painful, but over time, you realized that it made room for something better. The silence of solitude often precedes a major transformation. It's in that gap that your mind reorganizes itself, giving you clarity about what truly matters. However, many people don't recognize this and end up resisting the process. Instead of embracing this time as necessary, they try to fill the void at any cost. They throw themselves into meaningless relationships, seek endless distractions, and avoid silence at all costs. But does that really help? Or does it only delay what needs to happen? Solitude isn't a punishment, it's preparation. When you accept this moment and use it for reflection, you become stronger. It could be the perfect time to change something in your life, learn a new skill, or simply understand yourself better. And interestingly, after a period of introspection, new opportunities often emerge. But why do some people feel this disconnect more intensely than others? Maybe it's because they're living at a different pace than the world around them. And this brings us to an interesting concept, the so-called old souls. Society pushes us to be the same. From an early age, we're taught to follow rules, behave in expected ways, and fit into what's considered normal. But is that really a good thing? Jung referred to this force as the collective and warned about the dangers of letting it define who you are. At times, solitude is the only way to escape that influence and discover your true essence. People who are constantly surrounded by others end up absorbing opinions and influences without even realizing it. The pressure to act a certain way can be so strong that, before you know it, you're living a life you're not even sure is truly yours. The silence of solitude can be uncomfortable at first, but it's in that quiet that you learn to listen to your own thoughts, free from external interference. If you never take time to reflect alone, how can you truly know what you want? Modern life has made this search even more difficult. Social media, instant news, and opinions from all directions create constant noise. With so much information competing for your attention, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. Taking time to disconnect from this whirlwind can be transformative. Have you ever tried spending a day without checking your phone, consuming news, or listening to others' opinions? Just observing your own thoughts? It sounds simple, but few people do it. And those who allow themselves this pause often realize that many of their worries were nothing more than empty distractions. Solitude shouldn't be seen as isolation, but as a safe space to strengthen your mind and develop your independence. When you learn to be at peace with yourself, you realize that you don't need anyone's approval to feel whole. This shift in perspective is powerful. Your decisions are no longer driven by the fear of not belonging, but by the desire to live authentically. And when someone chooses to live with authenticity, something curious happens. A new path begins to unfold. The period of solitude may not be the end, but rather the beginning of something greater. Before significant changes, life tends to grow strangely silent. Friends drift away, opportunities vanish, plans fall apart. It feels like everything is at a standstill. But what if, in reality, this is a sign that something remarkable is about to happen? Jung believed that moments of isolation were not accidents of fate, but phases of inner strengthening. It is in silence that the mind reorganizes itself, and the soul prepares for what comes next. Great thinkers, artists, and leaders have all experienced solitude before their greatest achievement. Before developing the theory of relativity, Albert Einstein spent years immersed in his own thoughts. Nikola Tesla, who revolutionized electricity, saw solitude as an essential ingredient for creativity. These moments of withdrawal didn't weaken them. On the contrary, they gave them the clarity to see what no one else could. If you are going through a period of isolation, maybe it's time to use it to your advantage. Instead of resisting it, why not transform this time into growth? Learn something new, write down your thoughts, explore ideas you've always wanted to pursue. Small actions today can lay the groundwork for opportunities that haven't even appeared yet. What feels like emptiness now might be the very space needed for something new to bloom tomorrow. Many people see solitude as a problem, but what if it were actually a springboard? The more you get to know yourself during this period, the more prepared you'll be for what comes next. Because, at some point, this cycle completes itself, and new people, experiences, and opportunities start to appear. But how can you ensure that this time of solitude truly leads to growth? Jung believed that the answer lay in how this time is used. One of the most powerful ways to transform solitude into growth is by diving into self-discovery. This moment can be either a burden or a tool. It all depends on how you choose to use it. Instead of seeing it as a punishment, why not view it as an opportunity for evolution? Jung saw introspection as an essential path for those who want to deepen their understanding of themselves, free from external influence. But to do so, action is required. One of the best ways to use solitude to your advantage is to start writing. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. A journal, scattered notes, or even simple questions to help you understand yourself better. Putting thoughts on paper organizes the mind and reveals patterns that may have gone unnoticed before. Another valuable strategy is reflecting on your dreams. Jung believed that dreams are messages from the unconscious, clues about what is really happening inside you. Paying attention to them can bring unexpected answers and reveal profound aspects of your psyche. Additionally, periods of solitude are perfect for evaluating your life with honesty. What truly makes you happy? What habits hold you back? Which people uplift you, and which ones drain your energy? This is the ideal time to eliminate excesses, redefine priorities, and make better choices about where to invest your time and energy. Small changes now can completely transform your life in the months ahead. But here's something interesting. When someone goes through this process of self-discovery, something unexpected happens. New connections begin to emerge, and this time, they are more genuine. Jung believed that the more authentic you become, the more naturally you attract people who resonate with your essence. And perhaps that is exactly what happens after solitude. Over time, you realize that the right people start to appear. It's not a coincidence, but rather a reflection of what happens when you truly get to know yourself. Carl Jung used to say that when we are aligned with who we really are, we attract more authentic connections. But why does this happen? When someone doesn't know themselves well, they tend to accept any company just to fill the void. This leads to superficial relationships, built on need rather than genuine affinity. But when a person learns to be comfortable alone, they become more selective. Why waste time with people who add nothing to your life? Why hold on to relationships that drain your energy? Without effort, people who truly align with your new phase of life begin to show up. Have you noticed that after cutting toxic ties and stepping away from distractions, new friendships and opportunities emerge? It's not that these people weren't there before, it's that now you can finally see them. When you grow internally, your energy shifts, and you begin to attract what aligns with this new version of yourself. It's as if life is removing what no longer serves you to make room for what truly matters. However, this process doesn't happen overnight. Often, you must fully embrace solitude before something new can emerge. Like a caterpillar inside its cocoon, no one sees the transformation happening, but when the right moment comes, the change is visible to all. And perhaps this is the great truth about solitude. It is not the end, but a gateway to transformation. Because when everything seems to be at a standstill, it could mean that something extraordinary is about to unfold. Deep changes never happen in the middle of noise. Before any real transformation, there is always a period of silence, as if life were pausing to make space for something new. Jung saw this process as necessary. In these moments, solitude is not a punishment, it is a call to look inward and discover who you truly are. Think about the caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. It does not change while surrounded by the world, but only when it retreats into its cocoon. During that time, it completely dissolves, letting go of what it once was to become something entirely new. The same happens to people in times of change. That period of isolation, where everything feels meaningless, may actually be the clearest sign that something extraordinary is about to emerge. But for this transformation to take place, you must allow the process to run its course. Many try to rush this phase, escape from it, or fill their time with distractions. But does that truly help? Real growth happens when solitude is embraced with purpose. If you feel like you are going through a moment like this, maybe it is time to ask yourself, what needs to change within me? What no longer makes sense in my life? What am I ready to leave behind? The truth is, after this phase, nothing will ever be the same again. You won't go back to who you were, you won't be satisfied with empty conversations, and you won't accept just anything. What emerges is a new version of yourself, stronger, more conscious, and more aligned with your true essence. Now that we've reached this point, it's time to reflect. What does all of this mean for you? Solitude is not the end, but the beginning of something greater. It is a chance to understand yourself better, strengthen your mind, and gain clarity about who you really are. The more you know yourself, the easier it becomes to make the right decisions, avoid draining relationships, and live with greater purpose. Jung showed that the process of individuation is essential for those who truly seek to evolve. If you want to deepen this journey and unlock your hidden potential, I invite you to explore my ebook Alchemy and Archetypes, Exploring Inner Transformation Through Jungian Psychology. Inside, you'll find practical exercises and valuable teachings on Jungian psychology, helping you apply this knowledge to your life and transform your inner journey.